The last live lived. This is something that I've been pondering for quite some time now. Very unconventional. But the question stems from, why is it that there are some people who just know the difference between right and wrong without the law having to enforce this into their well-being, their mental capacity, or religion, to have to tell them? Sometimes I think about the in between the lines, the time frames. We have the commandments, and one of the commandments is thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. But then there's some of us that live our lives where we just don't have the inclination to do such things. It's just kind of not in our psychological vocabulary, if you will. But this also kind of gives me a snitch on the regular common man. And we still see this alive today, because there are people fucking each other's wives and husbands and killing and stealing and doing things. But the point being that somebody somewhere had to come down, and bring these great laws, right? Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, right? You have to be told these things like little children. And where I come from with a lot of this is, I think there's some laws that we should enforce, like don't deplete your resources, right? If you have an almighty maker, let's just say, no matter which way your belief system swings, if the creator created something, maybe we shouldn't just pull our pants down and take a big shit on it. What would you think if he created such a magnificent world like the world we live in, and it's being destroyed, ruined, and completely taken advantage of, not even appreciated? And where I come from with the last life lived is, I think that many of us, some of us, not many of us, have this feeling of what's the point? Some of us can see the things that others can't see, but the majorities don't see. Therefore, we are the unconventionalists. It doesn't make sense. There's almost no room for us. And it's almost a drama. Like, life could actually be pretty comical if you really think about it. Just the anatomy of a human being. I know I'm kind of all over the place, but it ties in. Look at how we have the reproductive organs right next to the evacuation unit on a human being. Happens in animals too. Like, one of the saddest things for a feline, a female cat, is that the buttocks will actually leak very close to the reproductive unit and actually give them a UTI, a urinary tract infection. Sad thing about a cat is a cat's not like a dog. It doesn't really make noise, and it's very hard to follow it around to see if there's actually blood coming from the vagina, when it urinates. And most of these cats go undiagnosed or unnoticed, and they pass away from kidney failure from a severe urinary tract infection. And I know quite a bit of women in my life that have that gets common. They get urinary tract infection. Just a poor design. Who designed this thing and why? Wait, couldn't we separated the two? Also, the fact that the butthole is probably one of the most dirty. It is the dirtiest thing on a body, and probably the thing that I would recommend that we keep clean the most. Yet it's placed in an area where we can't really see, right? It just doesn't make sense. That's just physical anatomy. But as I start to ponder longer into the world we live in, the essence of magical exploration, of acknowledgement, of wonderment, the chaos of nature always changing, the appreciation for something so simple as water. What the fuck is water? Water can't be compressed. It can vaporize. It's in what water is just in. If we were going to go to Mars or go to some place, even on Earth, if we were traveling, the very first thing we need to find is water. Of course, we need oxygen as well, but water and oxygen are the two major things that we need. And water is one of the most spiritual and most confounding thing if you really think about it. I think it's Dr. Kyoto, if memory serves me correct, with The Water Has Memory. I don't know if you guys ever seen this before, where they'll play like Hitler's Nazi speech into a glass of water, and then they'll pour little droplets and freeze them, and they'll actually put the frozen ice into a microscope so they can see the crystals, and the crystals will be deformed and ugly. Whereas they take holy water, or water that's blessed, it has magical crystals. It has beautiful, like angelic looking wings instead of contorted disarray, right? There's even people so far as to rot rice by labeling 3 jars. 1, I hate you, you're disgusting, I want to kill you, you're ugly, you have no purpose on this planet, right? And then the middle one they just ignore, and the other one they say, I love you, and I think that you're the most blessed thing I've ever seen. And this has been done thousands of times, and the one that is spoken to badly starts to actually mold with a black mold in it. The one in the center will get a little bit of mold, it'll start stinking, right? But the one that was blessed actually turns a golden hue and actually starts to ferment. We're literally manipulating physical matter just by our thoughts and our actions, not by anything other physical than the language of the symphony, the vibration, whatever you want to call it. But many of these things I think are beyond human capacity of understanding, that we have all around us. And yet we use mathematics and science and things to explain things. We have cookie cutter houses. Everything's predictable, or we try to make it predictable, right? But the average Joe and Jane have lost the magic, and it is very difficult, I think, for us to not lose our magic and to be put off in a different vortex, a different section of our thinking and our well-being. Given the thought of language, this one's kind of far out there, but the way I see the path that we've got lost on, that I'm observing with the fellow man here, is that we also have a symbolic, like a visual language. I'm very curious, I have not been aware enough and intentional enough to figure out if in my dreams anybody's even talking. I think this might be a visual language. When I used to walk my dog, I would do different experiments when I had a dog. I miss her so much. But I wouldn't talk to her, I wouldn't do anything. I would just visualize that we're going to turn left this day instead of right. And she would walk in front of me. I didn't walk her on a leash. And almost every single time, we would both, like a school of fish, end up walking to the left. There was a visual language, not as spoken, as Terence McKenna likes to say, funny mouth noises, but a different type of language. And I think that the combination of sound, texture, visualization is now encapsulated in movies, social media, and things like that, to the point where it's gone so far that we've actually become numb, where the fascination of the feather of a blue jay, just in the sunlight, the color of it, the magnifying of colors from water, the reflection in water, has become insignificant. The simplest of things around us have become insignificant because of the seas candies effect, the chocolate, the sugar, the alcohol, the intensity of stimuli to keep us so drugged up, basically, that we can't see what was pure and what is beautiful anymore, because it's not as shiny as the shiny lights that are out there. When the sun sets, the sun sets. But here in the big city, the big shitty, as I like to call it, the lights never go out. It's never really truly dark. I mean, when we go out here, I've just moved into the city, and I come outside and I look at this night sky. Hello, Manny and the moon. It never truly gets dark. There's that light hue from the big city. Everything has become artificial, and I think this is the way that we've lost. But now, getting back to the unconventionalists, those of us who can see, what the fuck are we supposed to do? We don't accept this for what it is. We can see the magic, but we're alone in that. And it is fascinating, and it is entertaining. There is a certain onset that I've popped the pimple of loneliness. I'm not really lonely for anything. In fact, it's the opposite. When I start to go with the common man, I actually get very depressed and I lose myself, you know? And as I said, the visual language and the technology, the social media and things like that, the brain is, the computer, from as well as I know, is designed from the human mind. And I visualize the mind as a hard drive, and there's only so much that you can download on a hard drive. Let's just say we have 1 gigabyte, right, instead of 1 terabyte. And as we go out into the world and converse with each other and see things, smell things, taste things, our gigabyte gets filled very quickly, and there's no time to really process. And I think that's where the numbing effect comes from. So that's why I choose not to be in public very often. Because when I leave my hard drive open and I don't have these things that hit me on a continuous basis. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever heard a song, seen a movie, or had a conversation with somebody, and this vision, this visionary language in your mind gets recorded, and you keep playing it over and over and over again. And it's, upon many things, until you take a physical diet, a diet away from the time and space that occupies the common man, and just sit alone for a while and figure out who the hell you are. But at this point, I think the last life lived, is I don't see any purpose for my kind anymore here, because the world has evolved to where the masses they're all over the place. They're in the spaghetti mix of things that is spiritual insanity, I would say. And there's no part for someone like me or us as unconventionalists to actually partake of. It's just not understanding. It's not even mentally fathomable to them to understand the simple things that I'm even talking about here. They probably think I'm fucking loony. And I guess I'm coming on here, this is my first video, to find out if there are others like me out there that actually see it and get it. But I almost believe, let me tell you a little story. It's called The Mutant Message Down Under, and I read this book probably about 30 years ago. And to put context, is a woman was actually, supposedly this is a story, but she was with the Aboriginals in Australia, and she went a walkabout, just living with them basically. And towards the end of the story, it's been 30 years, but it hit me like a ton of bricks, as they said that, our time is over. And she went into a cave with them, and they actually showed prophecies and things like that was going on with their people, that was told from the ancestors who can so-called see time in advance, what was coming. And basically what they said is, and we're happy with that. We're not sad or anything. Just like myself, I don't feel sad. I don't feel angry. At times it's hard to suppress the anger. I get little bits of the anger. It's more, I would say, not necessarily anger, but frustration. I just don't understand. I don't get it, right? I prefer to be alone. But the Aboriginal says, yeah, this way of living and our type of people, we're done. This is the new era, the new evolution of mankind. And that's why I think that this could be the last life lived. At this point, I look at, if reincarnation exists, I don't really know what to buy into, what not to. But if I had the choice to come back, I'm not sure at this point I'd want to come back. There's no really real point, Maybe I'll find it in my later years. But at this point, I look and there's just kind of almost nothing here for us. If you think about it and you want to go live simple, right? There's rules and no trespassing signs. Things are just getting owned up. Even if you wanted to go down a river on a boat, on a not even a motorized boat, you got to get a permit, right? If you want to eat animals and forage, right? Especially if you're going to fish or hunt, you got to have a hunting license. You can't just go out in the middle of nowhere. And I've seen a video where a guy was literally 3 days hike to get to his cabin hidden up way up in Alaska, and they still found him. They said, you can't be living like this. You can't be living like this. So it's like they almost come and hunt you down. Well, maybe not almost. I think they just pretty much hunt you down. Where do we go? What do we do? I don't know. I don't know what the future holds for this channel, The Unconventionalists, other than to try to group up with others and at least get a little entertainment and maybe explore different views and different vantage points. But one of my superpowers, I like to call it, is I have a power of macroing out. It's like a bird's eye view, right? You can macro out from any situation and watch the situation from above in its entirety to understand, well, how is the game being played here? First of all, when you macro out your first time, you see that it's a game. And you're like, oh, okay. You macro out even further and you're like, oh, there's rules to this game. And this is the way the game rolls. And then you macro out further and you're like, holy shit, everybody's playing this fucking game. Then you macro out and notice that you're watching the game. So you macro out even further, you're watching yourself watch the game. When you separate yourself from most observations and things, it's like a vortex, right? You get this belief idea, or this, something that really adheres to you, or it captures your interest. It's like you were wide, right? You had a wide lens, but as soon as you find something that interests you, it focuses in and you only see that one little thing, right? But if you start to macro out, you start to see the bigger picture and the bigger picture and the bigger picture of things. And that's when you can kind of look and say, well, what is this game? What are the rules to this game? And what's the outcome? What's the purpose of this game? And what you might find is it's purposeless. Maybe all life in general is purposeless. I don't know. Maybe there is no it to get, right? I know some of the most famous ones I try to live by a lot is it's not the destination, it's the journey. And that's what keeps life exciting. A lot of us think linear, where we want to get from point A to point B. Once I get there, then everything will be good, right? It's not necessarily the case. In this game of life, I have serviced, I've been in the company of very wealthy people, and I asked them, what does retirement look like? Do you just play golf all day, whatever, sleep in? And many of them, no, they actually volunteer. Every single one of them said, no, I can't just sit still. There's something to do, right? There's always something to do. And the problem is that we as human beings have to have some sort of purpose. And I think what's missing in the lives of most people's lives is there's no sacredness and there's no purpose. When you're in the game playing it, it's just a roundabout, right? You make money, they tax you, right? It's just a roundabout. Money's not even a real thing. A lot of people don't understand that. It's the rules of the game. Money is just a transfer of energy. It's you provided a service or did something somewhere. You got this promissory note, which doesn't have any gold backing it. It has no value whatsoever other than it's a promissory note. And it's devaluing as we speak right now. You go and get services from somebody else, like say a cheeseburger, and you hand that service, that money to them. And then upon they hand it to somebody else, it's this big giant circle. And anybody who's into money and wealth understands this, that it's not... Money is a liability. When you give money to a bank needs to get rid of it as soon as possible. They need to loan it to people. And I think it's quite funny, actually not even funny at all, that it was Henry Ford who says, if the public knew how the banking system worked, we'd have a revolution by the next morning. Because as of right now, I believe the bank could loan, say you deposit $1,000, they can loan that money 10 times. They can loan $1,000 to 10 different people off that 1,000. Money's printed. Anyways, that's the game. But yet, and I speak of this because this is one of the big things that people are killing each other for, stealing, right? Has a lot to do with divorce rates, murder, all kinds of different things, egos. And yet it's something that's not even a real asset. An asset is owning something like land, or, you can think of this in multiple different ways. Gold, oil, businesses, right? Something that generates, having a house, right? even though a house isn't quite an asset unless it's paying you and you're getting rent from it and it's appreciating in value, meaning it's going up. So this strange game is being played, and majority of people don't even know the rules. So when you macro out, as I said, it gives you a deep perspective of what the fuck is the purpose of all this anyways, you know? I do find joy every once in a while speaking when I do find another seeker, is what I like to call them, people who are constantly seeking answers, seeking enlightenment, seeking anything. And that's what I hope to acquire here. Probably going to get a lot of flack for this kind of stuff. But this could very well be the last life that I ever live. Because if I was given the chance, I sure would not want to have my butthole next to my privies, right? I wouldn't want to be chasing gold. I wouldn't want to be around a pigsty of people who not only disrespect others and disrespect the planet, the dirt we stand on, but disrespect themselves constantly and wonder why they're always sad and have no meaning, no purpose in life. And yet when you talk to them in plain English, in a language, or in any language we could both understand, they'll get it if you corner them, but they'll do nothing about it. Nothing will ever move. And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but if I look at people who came before me, you know, Gandhi, Malcolm X, Jesus, you know, all kinds of people who made great moves. Jesus is remembered, most of his story. I think most people don't even read the fucking Bible enough to understand the whole story. They know bits and pieces of it, but they sure as hell don't remember Gandhi or Malcolm X or any of these people who've done wonderful, great things. And they, by the way, they were all murdered, right? By these ravenous fucking people. I wouldn't want to call them ravens. I actually have a deep respect for ravens and for rats too. But how many people know of the story of what this person did? What was the purpose of their sacrifices and their goodwill and the entire purpose of their life when it's all forgotten? And if it's not completely forgotten, it's only partially remembered. And what significant change in the world has any of these people ever have made from then till we have now? Great men, including Jesus. And yet we still go on here. And if you're finding this, and I don't want to lower your energy or your vibration or anything like that, I want you to know that it is a very difficult place to be in. I think it's Carl Jung calls it the shadow, right? And there's an awakening period where it's painful, right? But you have to burst through the pain. It doesn't mean that the pain's ever over. There's still nuances, like irritation, things that will happen around. All right, that's my my special needs daughter. I got to change her diaper. I'm a single dad, by the way, guys. You can pop the pimple. You can spend time. I will talk about it on the next video if you'd like me to. Comment, guys, and let me know. I would definitely like to go live and talk to you guys more. That's my whole goal here. But ask me, let's talk more about the shadow. Let's talk about popping that pimple and getting a little more awake. Bye.